Hello. If you're watching this, it means that unfortunately Jess is on holiday right now. So we're going to give you a little run through of what you would have seen if Jess was here. So I'm Fergus Laidlaw. I'm one of the artists.
Hi, I'm Arnab. I'm one of the artists.
And we've been developing J.E.S.S, which stands for Just Examining Systemic Stereotypes. So really our focus with this project was to try and identify biases within artificial intelligence and how that relates to some of the photography that you've seen in the gallery today already. So to give you a bit of an idea of how it works, we're going to place this photograph, which is one of the portraits of the community in Bedford, onto the slide projector and begin the interaction. So when you first place this photograph onto the bed there, you're given some instructions by Jess on the right-hand side here, which tells you to move forward using the space bar. And when you do that, there's a quick photograph taken from inside the overhead projector there, and it starts to analyze this photograph and try to understand what features it can see within the photograph that we've placed on the bed there. And I think usually if you were here and it was working, we would ask you at this moment to actually describe it yourself and to try and look at the photograph and think about how you might describe this to someone if they weren't able to see it. Because that's essentially the process that's going on here. It's taking this image and it's trying to translate, the AI is trying to translate it into text as best it possibly can. Maybe Arnab can talk a little bit more technically about that process.
I think one of the biggest innovations that generative AI, as we know today, resulted from is this idea of AI being able to understand photographs. And this was done by taking millions and millions of photographs online and using the words and the captions that were beneath them. The AI started trying to make sense of the world. So imagine billions of photographs which have descriptions of the photographs attached to it, which then the AI ingests, and then it creates a model. So what we are using is this model called as CLIP. Now CLIP is famous because it was used in the first model that generated these images like 3 years ago. And it was one of the most foundational elements of the technology that creates AI as we know it today. So what it's doing is, like, once it has kind of looked at the images, it is searching its own corpus, trying to make sense, and then it generates a bunch of words. Now these words are something that you would see on the screen, and this is how the AI looks at the photograph. What we've also done is, based on these prompts, the AI tries to generate a photograph. So what's happening is it's taking an image, generating text from it, and then using that text to generate another image that you see on the screen.
Yeah, so on the right-hand side now that this process has done and it's done its thinking and identified these tags, and those tags get then presented on the wall behind me. So you can see that it's looked at this image here and it says, I see that there is a woman holding a bouquet of sunflowers in her hands, which might be similar to what one of us might describe if we were trying to describe this to someone. VHS color photography, Ukrainian flag on the left-hand side, which is not entirely clear. I mean, it has the Ukrainian colors, but clearly that's slightly different from what we might say. Crossed arms, effective altruism, photo booth, eerie 19-year-old girl, tails worn, promo photograph, Melbourne, fascist, brochure, uncropped, Nina Masick, warmly lit, PFP. So clearly there's some quite strange tagging going on there, or at least tagging that is really difficult to make heads or tails of, or it's very specific, or it's very unlike what a human might, the way that a person might describe this photograph. And so clearly this is not, the way that we would like these photos to be described. And a part of this for us was about thinking about when photographs are uploaded online and this kind of automatic tagging is happening behind the scenes, we wanted to basically make that clear to the public, and encourage people to think about how this tagging is happening and actually give a bit of insight into the way that it's happening. So then alongside these tags, then it takes those tags, like Arnab said, and generates a photograph of its own. And so then you see that there's also this kind of aesthetic element, and this is something that relates more directly to photography and how generative AI might take place of photography in some instances. What are the actual aesthetics of the images that are generated by this process? And so that's a really interesting way for us to compare the two things. Lastly, you're then presented with a collection of different photographs, some of which are real photographs and some of which are synthetic generated images. And it's interesting, I think, to try and look at those images and see if you can identify whether they're real or not, because the state of generative AI is improving at such a drastic rate that at a certain point we're unable to identify whether they're real or not. It's important to think about that, I guess, when you're browsing the web, whether or not an image could be real. If you have a moment whilst you're here, it would be great if you could take one of these images off the wall and describe in whatever words feel right to you how you might describe this photograph to someone who couldn't see it. Because I think one of the really interesting parts of displaying this in public is to think about how the AI differs from people and us, you guys as visitors, and how you might describe them in your own words. So that would be really helpful for us. If you go to reception now, you'll be able to find out when Jess will be back from holiday and when you'll be able to interact with her yourself. And please do that, because we'd love to get as many interactions as possible.